A lot of the breathing drills, what are we looking for? 3D breathing, which involves diaphragmatic breathing, rib expansion, thoracic extension, scapular upward rotation, clavicular elevation, all of that kind of stuff that involves expanding out the cavity of the lungs. So we're trying to expand the balloon that's filling up with air, and then we want to see the collapse of that balloon as it squeezes air out. So when we're doing any of the breathing drills, what's a key tenet to look at? Can they breathe deeply? If they can't breathe deeply, then it's not a breathing drill. It's just a stressed out state that's not training the ability to breathe deep. Now, we want to use that deep breathing capability in different positions and different orientations in order to stress them differently, but the key thing is they still have to breathe deep to be able to access those range of motions that we're looking at. So if we're doing something like a prone belly breathing where you lay on your stomach and breathe, what am I looking at? Can they actually get lateral expansion or anterior-posterior expansion without having the ability to expand their abdomen into the floor? So all of that is going to be important stuff. If I'm using a roller to do a breathing drill, we can do a couple of different things. Like Tony was talking earlier about doing the bear position, where you breathe up and go through it. So in this position, what should I be looking for when I'm trying to breathe? I'm trying to get rib expansion laterally, anterior-posterior movement, and also scapular movement into that upward rotation. So from that, we could take that and up-regulate the intensity of the exercise by getting them to do things like removing bases of support, leaning forward, doing all sorts of stuff. A really simple way is if I'm in this bear position here and I just lean forward. What does that do? Puts more focus on my upper body, but it also takes my pelvis and pushes it forward. Just to feel more abs leaning forward makes you just light up your abs like a Christmas tree. So getting into that position makes it harder to balance, which means it's a more taxing exercise, and therefore breathing is harder. But if I get into that position and I can't breathe anymore, what do? Back out of it. So I should still be able to breathe deep. So if I'm here and I breathe, and then I lean forward, you shouldn't see any change in how I breathe. I should still get that lateral breathing. I should still get that anterior-posterior expansion. If I get into that more intense state and I can't breathe the same way, I back out. Because otherwise I'm just doing a hard exercise for the sake of doing a hard exercise, and I'm not training a breathing capability in that position. So anytime you do a breathing drill, look at how they breathe as well as what position they're in overall. If they're not getting the breathing modality that we're trying to get, it's not doing the effectiveness that it's not getting the effective end result that we're trying to get. From that, we can also take people into different things with rollers. So I like using rollers because it gives you a chance to have just an offset on the ground, and pretty much every gym has a roller. So let's say I want to do a unilateral bear position protraction with breathing. So I'm here, both my elbows are locked out. This shoulder that's on the roller is in what position? Protracted or retracted? Retracted right now. So if I want to go into protraction, what do I have to do? Push that roller and then protract. What I'm trying not to do is rotate through the movement. I'm trying to get scapular motion. So big inhale, protract, press into bear. Come back down. Fill the lungs. When you breathe in, where does the spine go? Extension or flexion? Extension, and then as I breathe out, I can pull deeper into flexion. So if I try to inhale in flex position, I'm not going to go very far unless I get lateral expansion. If I try to exhale in here, I'm only going to get lateral compression in it. So if I do the combo of inhale, exhale from extension to flexion respectively, that's going to give me a better chance of filling and then compressing the bag of that lung. So if I'm extended, inhale, go into flexion, squeeze. Now I can also get into something like that where I use a rollout on here. So on the roller, it's a bit easier position on the wrist than going on the floor. So if you have clients that say, when I go onto the flat ground, my wrist starts bothering me, put their hands up onto a roller. It takes them from this flat position into a less extended position out of their wrist and makes it easier to hang on to. You can also turn your hands out to the outside edges if that's easier on their hands too. So wherever is comfortable. But from here, I can still get into that bear dome up. Press. Lateral flexing in. Now if I wanted to make this a really fun challenge, inhale as I walk out, and exhale as I pull back in. So I'm not just mindlessly rolling out and rolling back in. I'm trying to time it with my inhale, exhale cycles. And I'm not going for end range. I'm going for a capability to breathe. Now, if I wanted to really challenge myself, can I borrow you on this one? Come on up. I'm going to dome up. What I want you to do is try to pull the roller out from under my hands. Okay? Okay, so grab onto the roller. Good. Now try to roll it away from me. Okay? So as she's rolling it away, what do I have to do? Pull back. Okay, so you can use bands around the wrist, you can use whatever you want. If I want to be a really mean trainer, I can try to pull the roller out and tell the client to fight against me. So be the mean trainer. I'm pressed up. Okay, now pull away and make me fight. See how hard I'm working? Good. How hard are you working right there?
A little bit.
A little bit, but not a lot, right? So you don't have to work that hard. And it's something where like a small band can make that person absolutely hate everything about that situation. If you want to just be like, hey, I'm just going to drag this away from you, it's tough enough. Now, from there, what can I do? Go into different positions where I elevate. So thanks for that one. Next, so let's say I elevate. I go from here, and I just hang out and try to breathe. The more intense I want to go into upward rotation, the more my hips go up. So that's a classic DNS bear position hold. And if you want to just feel everything light up, that'll do it. So progressing from a knee position on the ground to knees up puts you in what position for your shoulders? Scapular upward rotation. So when they do that, you want to make sure they stay protracted into the ground and pushing through the serratus to get that upward rotation rather than winding up in their neck. So everyone try that right now. Find space around, go hands and knees. Okay. So protract into the floor as far as you can. Brace the abs, dome up through your mid-back. So I want you to fill the space between your shoulder blades. Good. Now lift your knees about an inch off the ground. So you're on your toes. Yeah, Karen, you get a pass on this one. Okay. So breathe. Are you able to get that lateral expansion that we were working on? If your wrists are sore on this one, you can go on knuckles. Now, push the knees higher into the air, and I want you to push through your shoulders to get that upward rotation out of the scapula. You're not going to go full down dog. You're going to go to maybe about a third or half down dog, where we're in that bear position. Good. Now breathe. Full lateral expansion, full anterior-posterior expansion. Good. Now come back down. So that was probably hard. But was it something where you felt like you could still get that expansion compression? If it wasn't, then it was too hard, we got to back off from it. So you probably found a happy space in there where it was either on all fours with your knees on the ground, knees just off the ground where you're like, this is hard, but I can still do it. And then a range of motion where you got to the top point and you're like, it's just not happening anymore. So wherever that upper port was that you were able to still maintain control, that's our trainable menu. That's our trainable position. Yep. If you didn't find it hard at all, then we're able to move on from that to stuff that's more challenging. So the cool thing is that we can still use this as a low threshold drill as just a drill. It's like, how do we make a free throw harder? Well, you get more successful at it. How do we do that? You hit every single shot. So getting into that position, every rep is a new free throw that you can master every single time. Doesn't mean that it's less valuable, it just means that you're good enough that you don't need to progress it or make it hard or get it as a training stress. So you can still do that kind of stuff, but if you want to get a training response, we just need to make it more intense. So it's definitely something where people will find value by doing stuff that's not hard, and people will find value in doing stuff that is hard. Finding that balance between the high threshold, moderate threshold, and low threshold becomes really apparent.